Hello, Scrufftards, and all the rest of you degenerates. Welcome to the War Zone. I'm Scruffy, and this is Scruffy Tales. And we're gonna be talking about the Deep State map and OPSEC, operational security, since Syrsky has mentioned that he is considering mobilizing the Deep State team for his own purposes. And he has voiced some concern about operational security that Deep State has shown Ukrainian positions that would have been best if it was not revealed to Russia and stuff like that. And that is, this is quite extraordinary that we have so many mappers that are updating the front lines on a daily basis quite accurately. And Deep State, we assume, have contacts within the Ukrainian military so they can accurately update their maps. And they usually do it 48, 72 hours after something has happened, so it's not real-time updates. It's usually a couple of days after something has happened or after the fact. But still, it is quite incredible the level of detail we receive almost in real time from the front lines. And I figured I would talk a bit about why this is an issue. So this is the Deep State map, and obviously we have loads of mappers. We have Deep State, we have ISW, Andrew Perpetua, we have Mayakovsky 73, we have Ukraine Control Map, we have the Blackbird Group, we have Lie UA, and we have a full host of pro-Russian mappers and what have you. And and they all have connections. Somehow they all use different sources to find out what's going on the front line and update accordingly. So why is that an issue? Well, it is an issue if we are Ukrainian, if we're pro-Ukrainian in this instance, as we should be. I mean, mapping out Russian positions, who cares? That's doesn't matter at all. The problem is when you start mapping out where Ukraine is in control. For instance, here we have gray zone, contested area. It's a bit unclear who is in control of what and where, but they have established that Russia has pushed in this way and they are in here. Here, no one knows, but they are pretty sure that Ukraine is in control of this territory here. Now, if the Russians are over here and looking at it, and they're like, we're not seeing anything happening over here, and they say Ukraine is down here, what if they begin pushing the advantage up here? And they say, hey, it's empty, this map is accurate, this is unknown, and it appears to be empty. Then maybe Russia will utilize this to push the advantage because Deep State is saying we have confirmed Ukrainian territory down here, right? So that is the issue. Obviously, if there are Ukrainians here and Russia moves in, they will find out pretty quickly. But they may, if they consider Deep State to be accurate and they have no indication that there are any Ukrainians here, they may actually push the advantage faster than it would have otherwise. Because, it's down here the Ukrainians are, according to Deep State. And stuff like that. And also, if we're seeing Ukraine pushing back here and we record and they update Ukraine's pushing, a Russian commander might be looking at this map and seeing things are happening, comparing it to the reports he's been given, and maybe something is lost from the front line to the command center on the severity of this, and he sees, the Ukrainians are updating that they're pushing hard, maybe there's something to that, and he will then allocate resources to this area he otherwise would not have. Right? So then that is a problem. So a assault that might have taken Russians by surprise is now no longer a surprise attack, because civilians are updating their maps, clearly showing a Ukrainian advance that the Russians might otherwise have overlooked. So there are a bunch of issues having these maps updating accurately and reliably. And another issue is I was watching a live stream with what is Professor Gerdes and the other guy. What's his name? I forgot his name. The other guy. That guy. Anyway, that other guy. And he was saying that Ukrainian soldiers are relying on Deepstate to get a feel for the overall situation. And that is also an issue, because what if the map is wrong? What if this is wrong and Ukrainian soldiers make a decision to move in somewhere based on this map, and the map is wrong, and they therefore move into an area that is controlled by the Russians? Right? That is a real issue. So, I mean, and should soldiers and commanders make decisions based on a map, based on, well, even if it is accurate, it's based on rumors from the front and other sources, but I mean various sources, but rumors in the end. And then they make decisions based on that, and they push in, and it could be terribly wrong, and they end up walking into a concentration of Russian troops instead, because they did not rely on army intelligence. They went to this civilian source that may or may not be true. And also, what if you have Ukrainians looking at this map and they're seeing this, and they're in here, and their orders are to hold in order to defend these two towns, and they are seeing that Russia is coming around and outflanking them, and they make the decision, we are about to be overrun, let's fall back. Maybe Ukraine command has plans to do a counterattack to reach these troops, to cut these Russians off and what have you, and that is reliant on Ukraine holding this area here so that they can move through and breach and reach them, right? Purely hypothetical, by the way, right? But if they just have orders to hold, they don't know the grander scheme of things, and they are seeing that they're being surrounded, and they fall back, they give up a bunch of territory to Russians, and the entire plan concocted by high command now falls apart. Now, I'm all for mission command when frontline officers, frontline commanders are allowed to make tactical decisions based on the situation they're in, but there is at times a need to stay put and trust command that they know what they're doing. So, I mean, yeah, so if they're looking, but I mean, if you have troops on the front line and they're seeing something like this, they may begin to question command's decision, question their own situation, and make a decision that is counterproductive to the Ukrainian cause, and therefore they collapse. I mean, like here at Ochrytyne, when Ukraine fell back from this position, that allowed Russia to push into Ochrytyne, and that allowed them to move in and roll up the entire Ukrainian flank. What if something like that happens here? They are in a bad spot and they decide, no, we're going to fall back. That gives Russia momentum to follow them into these towns, and that could allow Russia, potentially, hypothetically, to roll up the flank, because some Ukrainians decided we can't hold. So you see all the issues with having these maps. They can I mean, affect the front line really negatively if soldiers trusts these maps instead of trusting the chain of command. So I understand Syrsky, why he wants to control it, why he tries to minimize it, and especially if Deepstate is the most accurate one, and they base their maps on soldiers and commanders close to the front line. If Syrsky can gain control of this opsec breach, operational security breach, Ukraine stands a better chance of winning the war. If Russia has to rely on Andrew Perpetua, on Mayakovsky 73, ISW that are not as accurate as we are now speculating, that is out of his control. Those mappers are out of his control, but it's also less reliable information. So Russia may use faulty maps, faulty information, and they might make poor decisions because of that. So I understand where Syrsky is coming from. If civilians are revealing accurately Ukrainian positions along the front line, that only benefits Russia, to be perfectly honest. Now, I use Deepstate when I make my frontline updates, but I was late to the game. I've been doing this for a year, and there I rely on several mappers to try and figure out what's going on along the front line. The OPSEC breach is already wide open when I receive the information, and it's spread via multiple sources. I mean, I can't argue against the logic that Syrsky wants to potentially mobilize the Deepstate team for his own purposes and have them go over official information and provide the Ukrainian army, Ukrainian intelligence with accurate maps, so that they can utilize that skill set within the framework of the army to actually defeat the Russians, instead of just providing open source intelligence to the public at large. There is logic to it, and I understand it, and can't really be mad at Syrsky for potentially coming to the conclusion that he needs to put a stop to Deepstate to increase Ukraine's chances of winning the war. Now, of course, news of this has gotten the Russian propaganda machine working at full capacity, and the Vatnik rumor mill is now churning out disinformation and propaganda that the Deepstate team tried to flee the country. They were arrested on the border, and they have now been forced into the infantry to fight at the front lines, and that Syrsky shut down everything because, the Ukrainian regime, they're fascists. It's just unintelligent people should not be allowed to use the internet. Anyway, it is what it is. So that's the situation with Deepstate, Syrsky, and operational security. And it makes sense. It really does. And I mean, it might also be an indication that Deepstate is pretty darn accurate in their reporting, and at times it's too accurate, and being too accurate, being out of Syrsky's control, it means Russia can use these maps, or this particular map, for its own purposes, which means the Ukrainian army will lose battles because of Deepstate updates, which is not good. Anyway, that's gonna have to be it. I hope I'll see you in the next one. Go på marsch, Ukraine. Give them hell.